Hello, welcome into a really special tea time. Claire Apollo here with you on visual and audio. And look, I've got Rob Greenfield. Hey!
Hey everyone.
I'm in Totnes and so are you. So with all your adventuring and eco-activism that you've been doing, you've brought it all to Totnes. How come? What's that about?
Well, these days I don't usually choose where I'm going. It just ends up where people ask me to come. And so I was invited to do a TEDx talk in Paris on May 20th. And so I decided to make a European tour out of it. And I just put out a thing on Facebook saying I'd be in Europe and anybody who wanted me to, come speak in their town. And Nicola and Richard just started this zero waste shop. So they invited me to come to Totnes. So that's why I'm here.
That's so cool. And we went to, there was about 100 of us there yesterday at the Royal Seven Stars Hotel, slap bang in the middle of Totnes for Rob's talk. I think it came together very quickly. So, real thanks to Nicola and Richard for sorting that out. But you know what really got me about this talk, apart from your incredible story that you're going to be sharing with us a little bit here, but the wide range of people that were there through the generations. You're inspiring the kids and the grandparents.
Good. Well,
wow.
That's the whole idea of my message, is to keep it as universal as possible. There's something that a lot of people think, and that's that, being good to the earth is sort of a hippie thing, but I think that it's a human thing. Everybody, whether we're 5 years old or 85 years old, can do things to make the world, a better place and cause less destruction. And it doesn't matter if you're just fresh into it as a 5-year-old and you haven't created your ways that are already more destructive, or if you're 85 and you've fully created that and you can start to make changes. It's never too late to start living the life of, that a life that's good for the earth, your community, and yourself.
That's it. More consciousness.
Yeah,
absolutely. But you weren't always like this, were you? Even though you said that your mother brought you up as to be environmentally aware, but you kind of went through college and then was a bit of a crazy dude.
Yeah,
we're fully admitting this.
Yeah,
Pictures of him drinking out of plastic, not good.
Plastic cups with the cheapest beer you could possibly find, and plastic bottles of vodka. And so like you said, my mom raised me to care about the environment, definitely, and my dad. I didn't live with my dad, but he still, when he came and visited, he would take me out to the woods and we would just spend time out there. And so I grew up just passionate about animals and passionate about the world, everything in the natural world. And then what happened was, when I got a little older, like high school-ish, I started to really care a lot more what people thought about me. Middle school, high school. And for me, instead of caring about things, it's kind of the cool thing to not care. I don't know if you've been around that environment, but in college, it's like the coolest thing is to not care.
Don't go monkeys.
So I was really good at not caring.
So you tried that for a bit.
Yeah, well, I loved. Yeah, I mean, I was good at just not caring about things.
But you were studying, what was it? Biology, chemistry, and
aquatic science.
So through the not caring, there was some caring there. Actually, because of your interest.
So the disconnect was, I was passionate about the environment still, but I didn't see how myself, as an individual, as a human being, how my daily actions, the food I was eating, the water I was drinking, the car I was driving, affected the natural world. So as a biologist and an aquatic scientist, there was a total disconnection that I am a part of all of that, even if I'm at home, at work, or at school. And so, my awakening came from when I realized, wow, I'm destroying the very things that I'm professing to love.
So there was an awakening, an aha occurred when you realized.
It wasn't so much of an aha moment. Like a lot of people have that big moment of awakening. Yeah. For me, it was just, I turned on Netflix and I started to watch documentaries and started to read some books. And it was a little gradual. And what happened was, little lights went up, like one little bit at a time. And then eventually those lights built up into one that was shining so bright that I couldn't turn it off.
Which one was that then, Rob?
None, just all the little ones.
All the little ones became
all the little
one
ones
big one.
Became one big one. It was no one big thing. It might have been listening to a talk like this and, watching a documentary like Food Inc., being around, someone who is practicing holistic medicine. It was just like, put myself into a new surroundings, both online and around people, and it just built up into a total transition of a way of thinking and being.
So you were then able to give yourself some more choices, some more conscious choices. You know, how did you shift from being a crazy dude into a cool one?
I was still cool when I was crazy.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. I shifted one little change at a time. So a lot of people a lot of people can, you know, be very overwhelmed when you realize everything you're doing, the plastic bags, the plastic bottles, the factory farmed food, the fossil fuels you're putting in your vehicle, the job that you have that's destroying the earth. Like, a lot of people can feel very overwhelmed, but instead I just made this long list of changes that I wanted to make in my life. I hung it up in my kitchen in a very prominent place, and then I taped a pen to it by string, and my goal is to check one thing off each week. And so imagine if you make one change every week for 2 years, that's 104 changes.
Well, and some of these changes are quite simple, and some of them are a little bit larger. So, you know, like over here, the whole reusable plastic bag thing going on in supermarkets, that's gone on widespread. People now remember to bring their carrier bags with them to the supermarket. I mean, that's just one thing, but that's actually a government directive. But to have something that you're personally being conscious what you could change. And, you know, Rob's been through so many changes, haven't you? Transformations through nowhere. 400. Yeah. So, but it becomes a way of life. You get to know yourself better. And you were saying that you used to be in an apartment, and in order to sort of be able to give the time for these changes to occur, you needed to rent out rooms in your apartment. So you then moved into the closet.
Yeah, well, so funny. I found that the more simply I live, the more I'm able to dedicate myself to the cause. So to my passion. The more simply I live, the more I'm able to live with passion and purpose. And so for me, when I decided that because I was living a busy life, I was working, 40, 50, 60 hours a week running a marketing company. So I don't have children and I'm young, so I still had a lot of time to do things, but I still had, 50, 60 hours going into things that weren't about changing the world for the better. And so what were we talking about again?
You are moving into the closet.
Oh, yeah. So I found basically that the less I needed money, the more free time I had. Because imagine if the average person works 40 hours a week, if you could not need all that money, then you can do the things that you really want. So one of the things, rent, for a lot of people, rent makes up about 30% of their total income. So by not paying rent, that means I could work, say, 30% less. And so that's a lot of time for making positive changes. So what I did is I had a 3-bedroom apartment that I had in my name, and then I rented out. Instead of having the big bedroom that was, super comfy with all my stuff, I got rid of a lot of my stuff, so I had less stuff.
That's another key thing, isn't it? Decluttering,
Decluttering, getting rid of a lot of stuff. Simplified, and then I moved into a little 6x6 closet. I also, another thing I did,
tall.
Well, 5'10", medium. Another thing I did is a buddy of mine needed to park his camper somewhere, so I let him put it in my driveway. And then I slept in the camper a lot of the time too.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that yesterday, but by doing that, then I rented out my room, which meant I was living rent-free. And so that was an example of sort of, you could call that a sacrifice or giving something up. But the more I've given up, the more I've actually gotten in return. And so the reality is I found that giving stuff up usually you get so much more in return.
It's different though, isn't it? It's not what you expect. Because I've been living without rent for nearly 3 years now. And the exchanges that occur and the way that you find there are people with homes that do need to be taken care of or cats that need to be sat on. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, and I find myself now down in Plymouth taking care of a summer cabin in the sort of the spring months, which is how come I'm here. And I just happened to spot that Rob was in Totnes. So again, a little bit more room for synchronicities to come in, of flow, of being able to be part of a widening community of like-hearted people. And so you then went from there to, is that when you then thought you were going to do something like adventurous and extreme? Because that's what you do, extreme adventures, don't you?
I've always been an extreme guy, to be honest. So,
Comes naturally to you.
Yeah, but in the past, my extremeness was always just self-serving. And so what I did really is I knew that I'm good at doing kind of extreme things that catch people's attention. So it was many factors, but you know, I've always been. Oh, there's a cat back there. I've always.
A cat sitting. You want to come here to.
Yeah, that's weird though. I saw a cat last night. Let's not get sidetracked.
Sorry. Anyway, yes. So you're very good at doing extreme things.
Yeah. So what I decided is that I would use my, attention grabbing sort of tactics to instead bring the attention to things that matter. So like often the attention was on me, and now the idea is when the attention is on me, the attention is on the earth. So, using a human face, because people relate to people, more than anything, people relate to people more than animals or more than plants or the earth. So by having a personal story, that's able to really help people, get involved and get interested.
So was that the riding across America on a bamboo bike?
Yeah, so actually what happened was I cut my foot open really bad in 2013 on a clamshell in a park. And so I had to self-stitch up. A friend helped me glue it shut.
So how long have you been barefoot? He hasn't got any footwear on, hasn't been wearing footwear for a while.
Mostly barefoot for like 3 years or so, but it's not always perfect. If I'm crossing them cold mountains, I'm going to have shoes on, So.
That's that whole story about flip-flops and needing to go on a plane and get flip-flops. So found one on the beach and then found his partner somewhere. Anyway.
Garbage to get on the plane. But,
getting sidetracked again.
Yeah, what were we talking about again?
Across America.
Oh, yeah. So what happened was I'm sitting on the couch. My friend who's a nurse told me, not to basically walk on it for a month. So I'm sitting there kind of like reflecting on life. And I'm like, I'd already been transforming my life for about 2 years. But I'm just thinking, man, I only, as far as I know, get one life on earth. Like I should really do what I feel passionate about and do what, I feel like where I can make the biggest positive impact. And so I always thought, I always loved adventures. That was what I was the most passionate about, exploring the natural world, exploring the world, understanding it, but doing it in a way that broadens horizons, my horizons and other horizons. So that was the day I was sitting on the couch with a gashed open foot, and I decided I'm going to become a professional adventurer.
Oh, cool. So professional adventurer.
February.
Not an amateur. Seriously professional.
That was February of 2013, and then I made a website.
Because you're good at all of that with all that marketing.
Yeah, good with marketing.
That, yeah.
Man, that is the cutest cat.
Hello. He's going to come say hello. Yes, he's going to come
So
over.
that was February of 2013, and then my first adventure really began in April of 2013. So it's been about 4 years of really, using adventures and activism to bring important messages to people.
Yeah, brilliant. And that was when you were dumpster truck driving, diving, not driving. So you set yourself an adventure to go completely currency free and eat whatever you could. What was it? Local, organic, and natural or something.
Yeah. So on that,
or from a dumpster truck.
That trip was called Off the Grid across the United States, and the idea was to bike across the country with this little environment. We're so distracted by this cute cat. There it is. The mystery has been solved for everyone. I guess it doesn't want to hang out too much. It's interested.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the idea was to bike across the country, having as little of an environmental impact and really living out sustainable living as much as I possibly could.
Right. And that meant, because you were saying that if you're eating local, in California it was fine because there's lots of locally grown organic produce, but when you were in other places, I don't know, can't remember where
Kansas, Nebraska, most of the United States.
You're like, where's the fresh stuff? And that was that. Then you got into what was behind supermarkets, what the waste was. And he makes these incredible, if you've not seen them, these beautiful food mandalas. I mean, they are works of art, let alone if you're going to eat them and you sit in the middle of them. Because as you're saying, your girlfriend Cheryl, a bit like quite a lot of us, we need to be visual, we need to see things. And you were saying that it helped her to understand what was going on, to see the amount rather than just look at numbers and figures. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, during that time, I started to look into grocery store dumpsters because I was trying to find local, organic, unpackaged food, but I just wasn't finding it. So I figured, let me look in the dumpsters and see what food is going to waste, because if it's going to waste, might as well eat it. The environmental impact has already happened. And I was just blown away by how much perfectly good food is being wasted. We're talking like in the first dumpster, I found a still frozen half-gallon of ice cream that I ate right there.
You wouldn't want it to defrosted.
No, it's still frozen. And then just crazy amounts of the most. I can't tell you the number of times when I've shown people what I've gotten from the dumpster and they said, this is better than what I bought at the store today.
Wow.
Because a lot of stuff is thrown away because of a tiny imperfection. Maybe the potato, maybe the banana's the wrong curve.
That one. Well,
the color, its shape, color, size is not nutritional aspects at all. And so I started to, just explore that. And the more that I saw, the more I thought, I gotta tell people about this. Like I was worried because the whole idea of dumpster diving being, the social stigma around it. But ultimately, the more I talked about it, the more people were happy to learn about it and were excited that I was, bringing it to people's attention.
Exactly. And what has happened from there is that grocery stores in the UK are linking up with people who need food. So it's actually, I don't know if it was you, it probably was, I reckon.
There's thousands of people working on food waste. Actually, one of my favorite people, Tristram Stewart, he's based in the UK out of London. His nonprofit is called Feedback. And he's been doing this for like 15 years, really. He's got a TED Talk called The Global Food Waste Scandal that I'd recommend.
Thank you.
And so all over the United States, Europe, all over the world, there's tens of thousands of people that are working to end food waste and actually get our food eaten instead of wasted. And so it's a movement that's really growing, and I'm super happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well done. Rob Greenfield is here with us on Tea Time this evening. I'm going to play you a track now, and then we'll come back and talk with him a little more after that. And I think we're going to go with the JJ Cale one, Travelling Light, because it kind of sounds pertinent to you. And we're going to come back and talk with you a little bit how you have decluttered and got your personal possessions down to just 111 items.
All right.
Thank you. Got a pause there.
All right. The cat is so distracting.
Hello, a bit of Travelling Light with JJ Cale, and I'm here with Rob Greenfield, all the way from America via Paris, and he's on a bit of a tour. And I met him down in Totnes yesterday, but we've also met before on Tea Time when you very kindly managed to find a slot. I don't know when that was now, a year ago, maybe 2 years even.
Yeah.
But I've been following your I was going to say antics, but in a really good way, because you really bring to the attention things that some of us would wish we had the guts to do. And he's doing it, and recording it. So you really raised attention on your bamboo bike, something about not having a seat as well. I didn't quite understand that.
That was called Stand Up for Sustainability. So I had no bike seat for the state of Iowa, which is 350 miles, and the idea was to literally stand up for sustainability. It was just crazy and great, one of those, crazy fun adventures.
It really appealed to you, I can see that.
I had a fun time with it.
And then you got picked up by the Discovery Channel, didn't you? And they flew you over to South America and said, right, you got no money, just your wits and a bike. Off you go.
No bike.
Not on
that trip. So that came from, I had done a trip down to Panama from San Diego, where I landed there with no money, just literally the clothes on my back and my passport. So I had sandals, shorts, shirt, jacket, hat, and a passport. And that's where I landed in Panama, and I had to travel through 7 countries. So Panama, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico. So, and then to the United States. So it's 4,000 miles. And the idea was to, by putting myself into a situation where I genuinely needed people's help, to show people that the world is actually really full of good people, and that, sure, there's some bad eggs, I guess you would say. But the media focuses on the violence and the bad eggs in the world, but in reality they make up a small portion. So to show the world that people are good, and if you put yourself out there, that people will help you. So off of that adventure, later I ended up getting hooked up with Discovery Channel, and then we did that adventure again. This time I was dropped in Brazil and had to make it to Panama. So 7,000 miles through Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and to Panama.
And you did this with your 111 things?
At that time I had a small backpack, and that had about 35 possessions with me. So it was very minimalist, just basic survival gear. So tent, sleeping pad, sleeping bag, water purifier, this jacket and these pants, and just some, very, very basic survival gear to get me through the country.
Right, and this is what you've done, from sort of decluttering your house and going to live in the closet or the camper van on the front. Is that been a gradual process of things that I just don't need that. I really don't need that. If you think about having to carry something, my goodness, your priorities really get in alignment, don't they?
And that's the important thing, is that the only reason I ever got to this point of now having just 111 possessions is because I downsized year after year after year. So what I would do is that every 6 months or so, I would go through my house. And if I hadn't used something in 6 months and I felt like I didn't need it, then what I would do is I'd find a better home for it.
Yes.
So I'd give it to a thrift shop, or I would give it to a friend who would use it, knowing that if I need that once a year, I can go ask the friend if I can use it for a weekend.
It's true. I have an ironing board that's at Lisa's, and I can go and use it if I want it there. But I tend to find most people have got ironing boards.
Yeah.
I have my own steam iron, but I don't need that if I go abroad. But it's that kind of thing, and that's something you talked about using our resources and sharing them.
Yeah.
So this is sort of where it can start, can't it?
Yeah,
and then you can get up into car sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so that's the whole idea, is that it's step by step by step. The only reason I was able to ultimately travel with no money and no possessions is because I'd been practicing simplifying, minimal living, and also just focusing on understanding that the earth is fully abundant of resources. And if we just pay attention to the earth, it can actually meet our needs. And also, if we decrease our needs, when really what they are is wants, if we focus on what we actually need in life, it's so much easier to just exist. And so that's the reason I can get from point A to point Z is because there's points B through Y all the way in between. A lot of people, when they see my extreme campaigns and adventures, they don't see all those points in between, but they're all there. It's all transitional.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, Rob Greenfield here on Tea Time. Woo-hoo. I'm going to have to ask you about electricity now and sources, because you're very good at letting us know what's going on. You said you've got a great website, you're blogging, you do the online thing, but you don't do Wi-Fi, you do it all through, you haven't obviously got home with the Wi-Fi, have you? But how have you managed that? I mean, I know you've got solar panels that soup up your devices wherever you go. Is that just a way of being able to keep them going? But you still need the network, don't you? So
I'm by no means living completely off the grid. Yeah. I've done periods of time, like when I lived in my tiny house, where I lived off the grid at my house. But when I needed to use the internet, I would go to the library or a cafe or something like that, which is an example of sharing. We don't all need our own modems and routers at home, and instead we can, for example, in San Diego, I would go to a shared office space where I didn't need my own building as an office. Instead, I could go use the shared computer. I have my own computer, but shared Wi-Fi, shared tables, shared resources. And so that's what it's really about. So my goal is to decrease my negative environmental impact, increase my positive impact, but know that it's always going to be a balance. There's always going to be some hypocrisies in my life. Ideally, I would never use electricity that comes from fossil fuels, but if I was to do that, I wouldn't be able to really spread the message. So there's something called transitional ethics. And that's, we're transitioning to a new way of life, hopefully, a way that is living more in line with the earth, with humanity, with the other species that we share the earth with. And so we're not always going to be perfect in that transition if we want to make that transition. So it's about having our boundaries, having our balances, knowing our hypocrisies, and always transitioning forward.
Being aware of it, so not being sort of so blinkered that you end up not being part of this world, because you still are part of this, and you're part of this transitioning world.
Mm-hmm.
You're inspiring people, Rob. I mean, there were some teenagers there yesterday who were just so relieved to hear you speak and give them some hope and messages of possibility that were not what they're being told by their schools, which is, again, you know, what is being taught to the kids is quite scary. And what they really want to know is the kind of stuff that you're doing about, you know, how can we be aware, how can we be conscious, and how can we make the right choices and create the communities that we want to be part of. And so, so you're becoming a teacher as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, that's my philosophy. You know, there's the basic saying, you know, teach, don't preach. So I try to teach as much as possible by living and leading by example. So one of my philosophies is lead by example and live it out loud. So do the right thing, and then I guess living it out loud would be the teaching aspect of it. So, or
the blogging it, or being on Discovery channels, or because you've got your own website, robgreenfield.tv. There's lots of resources on there for people. And you also have ways to get people involved with the changes that you can make. You've got those 3 R's, haven't you? No, 5 R's, or is it 7 R's?
There's a whole lot.
There's lots of R's, which start with what?
Well, you think you're talking about refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle. Those are some of the...
I think you could do a little tune like that.
Yeah, maybe. There are. Jack Johnson has a really cool song about the 3 R's. It's like, you gotta reduce, reuse, recycle. I'm a horrible singer.
Find that, aren't I?
But it's a really cool... I love it. It's one of my favorite songs.
Should we play that at the end then?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Play that song. Reduce, reuse, recycle by Jack Johnson.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the name of it, but...
I'll see if I can find it.
Well, we'll find it.
We'll find it. But so this is coming through. You're very much sort of riding on the zeitgeist of the time, but that's actually the name of a film that you really inspired you, that was brought up in yesterday's meeting as well. But it's being with what's truly going on behind the scenes, not what we're being blasted with in mainstream. And this difficulty that we have with being conscious and then being around people that feel threatened by our consciousness. But you have such a kindly attitude to you. I would think that you kind of just go, well, I'm just doing what I do and you're doing what you do. And you don't preach, do you?
No, I try not to. I'm by no means perfect about it.
People are curious though, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that's the key, is pique people's curiosity as much as possible. So, one of the things I say is, if you want people to transition to a healthier, happier way of life, be healthy and happy, and make people think, why is he or she so happy and so healthy? And then, eventually after watching you for a while, maybe it's in your at work, in the office, maybe it's your parents who don't want to make changes, but eventually I see, dang, this person's happy and healthy, and I'm not. So I got to ask, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? And Rob has capped his income to $5,000 a year?
Yeah, that's my current.
It's just like, whew, well, you don't have to earn that much.
No.
It really does free up, and it's not dissimilar to my story as well. I needed to take a break from teaching, and I didn't know how to do that. And it's like, well, if I let go of rent for a while, that would take a whole chunk of pressure off me. You know how many people would like to have 6 months where they don't have to pay their bills, just to kind of regroup and go, where am I? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I think people like yourself are giving people inspiration to think outside the box and go, well, how can I make this different? And
when you do think outside the box, you'll realize there's more choices than you can possibly deal with.
Right.
There's so many. For example, Woofing is a network of organic farms where you can volunteer on organic farms, learn all about growing food, and in exchange you get a free place to stay and free food. So if you get rid of your bills at home, you can travel indefinitely this way. You can also do house sitting. There's websites like Workaway and HelpX, which are websites where you can work. Often maybe you earn some money, but a lot of times it's just in exchange for a place to stay and the experience and food. There's volunteering opportunities all over. So when you really, couch surfing is another example, where you can stay with people for free all over the world. There's 6 million members on couchsurfing.com. So once you start to really just think outside the box, critically think, then where you in the past would have said, you know, it's impossible, then all of a sudden you realize there's just more possibilities than you could ever possibly experience in this lifetime.
Yeah, there really are. Rob, I could talk to you for ages, but he wants to go hiking.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask him to explain how he rationalizes his transatlantic plane flights.
Okay. Yeah, rationalization is definitely a good word for it, which is, you know, it's something that we all do, you know, all the time.
Yeah.
But for me, my goal in life really is to just have as positive an impact as I can on the world, both for the environment and for the people that live here and for the other animals that we share the earth with. And so for me, I've realized that sometimes I have one option, and that's to build a cabin out of, you know, with my bare hands in the woods, or, you know, an earth ship or something like that, live completely off the grid, grow 100% of my own food. And that would be a beautiful life. And part of me really wants to live it. And people could come visit me and I would still be able to have a positive impact and be a great example. However, for me, my goal is to, you know, strategically reach as many people as possible and inspire as many people as possible and light fires inside as many people as possible.
Oh yeah, we need that.
And so for me, traveling is a key aspect of that. And so for me, flying, I believe at this point it is worth it. The carbon footprint of the flying is something that I think will offset itself by the positive impact that I can make. So that's my way of doing things. And then beyond that, what I do is I triple offset the carbon using the gold standard of carbon offsets. So it's like a third-party verified high standard of carbon offsets.
Okay.
Volunteer with a nonprofit for 5 hours every time that I fly. And then every time I fly, it has to be for the greater good, not just for my own personal family visit or something. So if I do want to,
you're on a mission to get somewhere.
If I do want to visit my family, then I got to organize a talk at the local university or something like that. But also, so in the United States right now, I'm not flying. I'm just taking train. I can take a train 3,000 miles across the United States. And while I'm on the train, I can get work done.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Not to say that I might, you know, if there's something that, you know, would be an opportunity that I should really take, and I'm in New York and it's in LA tomorrow, I'm not saying I would never fly again, but right now, right now, if I can take a bus or a plane or a train, then I'm going to do it. Yeah.
So where is home, Rob?
Currently home is nowhere. I've been traveling I left the tiny house in San Diego.
Yeah, didn't you give that to somebody?
I auctioned it and then raised money to build tiny houses for people without houses. So the idea is that we're making a little tiny house community for people that live on the streets. And so I bought my house for $950. We were able to raise $10,000 by auctioning mine. So it's enough to build 10 tiny houses. So that's in progress. So since I did that, I left San Diego 13 months ago, and I've been traveling. I'll be traveling till the end of this year, and then starting next year, I'm actually embarking on a project where for 1 year, I'm going to grow, forage, or hunt 100% of my own food for an entire year.
Oh, that's going to be really cool
really
to watch.
Looking forward to it. I've actually never met if anyone knows of one, but I've never met a human being that for 365 days didn't eat anything, that lived 100% off of the land around them.
Yeah.
Never, it's going to be down to the salt, the herbs, the spices, nothing.
Right.
And I've never seen it it happened. It was the way of life thousands of years ago, but I've never seen it before. So
that would be a great gauntlet as well to throw down. Like we talk about sustainable living and growing your own, but how much do you actually need to grow to feed yourself well, so that you're not starving and you don't get a glut of courgettes, zucchinis the whole time.
Well, I'll eat a lot of zucchinis.
They're quite nice.
But the whole thing is about getting people to just think about growing some food,
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. We don't need to grow 100% of our food, but if we all grew our vegetables and fruits at least, which we can do in small spaces, that would be amazing.
We can. So do you feel that this running around the planet and not having a physical home, you actually find the home within yourself more, and that's what you take around with you?
For me personally, I find I definitely am very at one with myself. I'm happy with who I am and where I am and what I'm doing. I feel very full, not empty. So for me, it just works. Like I don't physically need a home. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean I do get tired, and eventually I want to have a place where I can really, my plan eventually is that I'm going to have like a simple living institute of sort where people can come learn, and I'll spend, say, 6 months of the year there and then travel, say, 6 months of the year. So I can really be, I am a little imbalanced, I feel, right now, in that I'm on the road a little too much, and I really, there's some things I'm not able to fully lead by example with, like growing my own food.
Right, you can't do that on the run, can you?
Pretty hard. I do help other people grow their own food, so food is being grown. This summer we're doing this bike ride across the country, which anybody listening is welcome to join. It's New York City, May 29th, all the way to Seattle. August 18th is when we get there, and we're biking across the country, doing good deeds on bikes and planting gardens, freestyle gardening all across the country. So, I won't personally get to eat any of that, but it's going to be thousands of people that are going to get to eat fresh grown food from the seeds that we're spreading and everything throughout the summer. Yeah.
It's lovely. Oh, Rob, I love what you're doing. I love you too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
For everything that you do for the world. And if you're inspired, go across to robgreenfield.tv and catch up with him, because you're off to London weekend, and then you're going around Europe, and then so catch up with him if you can. Really inspiring to be in the presence of. So thank you once again for being part of Tea Time.
Nice to see you all, and go out and do something good today. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, you're really welcome. Thank you.